In the heart of the charming old city of Bellbridge, where cobblestone streets curled like ribbons and chimneys puffed gentle wisps of smoke into the grey morning air, a tiny creature stirred beneath. A rosebush in the corner of a quiet park. His name was Milo, a clever and adventurous little mouse with sleek fur the color of river stones and eyes as bright as morning dew. Milo lived a most unconventional life. He had no set home, no permanent bed. Each night, he chose a different corner of the city to sleep in, and every morning, he awoke somewhere new. This was the freedom he loved most in the bustling, ever-changing world of Bellbridge. On this particular morning, the park was blanketed in a delicate mist. Sunlight filtered through the haze in soft gold ribbons, dancing across the freshly dampened leaves. Milo blinked, stretched his tiny limbs, and let out a long, squeaky yawn. He had spent the night curled beneath a rosebush near the base of a grand statue, a boy with outstretched arms, playing a flute, surrounded by sculpted birds, foxes, and rabbits frozen in a circle of listening. Curious as always, Milo scampered closer to read the tiny inscription at the statue's base. Elias, Keeper of Dreams, it read. Milo tilted his head. He liked the sound of that. Just beyond the statue, the city was already stirring. Joggers passed by with rhythmic steps, dogs barked playfully, and a couple walked hand in hand, steaming coffee cups in tow. Milo felt that thrilling little pulse he got every morning, the sense that the day ahead might hold something spectacular. Today, however, was not just any day. Today, Milo had an invitation. His cousin, Lena, lived in the walls of Bellbridge Castle, a regal place filled with grand halls, glittering chandeliers, and ancient secrets. Lena was a refined mouse, fond of fine teas and delicate pastries. She had written to Milo on a leaf paper scroll, sealed with a raspberry jam thumbprint, of course, inviting him to tea at precisely 3 o'clock. But it was only just morning, and Bellbridge was a city full of possibilities. Milo decided to begin his day with a proper bath, or as proper as it could be for a mouse without a sink. He made his way through the whispering hedges to the lily fountain, a sprawling marble structure tucked behind the park's eastern gate. The fountain's water sang as it danced and fell in crystalline threads. Milo dove into the splashiest pool with a joyous squeak, letting the cool stream rinse away the dust of sleep. Clean and invigorated, he sat on the rim of the fountain, grooming his fur with neat, swift strokes. Then, stomach rumbling, he turned his thoughts to breakfast. Bellbridge was a melting pot of cuisines. He could smell them already. Sweet vanilla from the baker's lane, smoky rosemary from the food carts by the square, and, there it was. The scent of his favorite morning treat, honeyberry tart. But not just any tart. The best honeyberry tart was made by a grumpy but genius mole named Mr. Thimble, who ran a bakery in the heart of Wisteria Row. Milo dashed across the square, narrowly avoiding a rolling stroller and a yawning tabby cat. He knew all the shortcuts beneath benches, through drain pipes, behind forgotten flower pots. Within minutes, he arrived at Wisteria Row, where the buildings wore ivy like jewelry and pigeons napped on window sills. Mr. Thimble's bakery had already opened. Milo waited in the alley as a line of customers shuffled in and out. A man in a green trench coat walked out with a steaming tart, the scent so powerful it made Milo's whiskers quiver. He followed the man to Elmbridge Square, where he settled on a bench beneath a swaying elm and bit into his pastry. Crumbs drifted to the ground like petals. Milo caught them effortlessly. With a full belly and several flakes of pastry clinging to his fur, he strolled toward the bustling heart of the city. He passed a group of school children in matching red hats, a woman selling paper windmills, and a street musician playing a melancholy tune on a violin made from an old walnut shell. As he wandered, Milo's gaze caught something odd, a whisper of movement in the shadows near the old bookery, a dusty, forgotten shop no mouse ever dared enter. A light flickered inside, though the windows were dark with grime. Milo paused. For a moment, he felt a strange tug in his chest as though something beyond the city's rhythm was calling to him. But he shook it off. After all, he had a royalty date to attend later. The morning was his to explore. Perhaps a little shopping on Clover Street, where miniature boutiques sold hand-stitched capes and acorn-sized spectacles. Or a ride atop the tram, tucked safely in the luggage rack, peeking out at the city racing by. He hadn't yet decided. But one thing was certain: this day was no ordinary day. And something, deep within the steam and chatter of Bellbridge, was waiting for Milo. As the morning sun climbed higher over the rooftops of Bellbridge, casting long golden shadows across the cobblestone alleys, Milo adjusted the tiny blue ribbon he wore like a scarf. It wasn't for fashion, it had been a parting gift from his sister years ago, and he wore it for luck on days like this. After his scrumptious breakfast and a stroll through Clover Street, where he admired a rack of miniature umbrellas and narrowly avoided being swatted by a passing broom, Milo realized it was still early. He glanced toward the far end of the city, where the towers of Bellbridge Castle stood like silent sentinels. Tea with Lena wasn't until 3. That meant one thing: it was time for an adventure. Remembering the odd flicker of light he'd seen earlier in the dusty windows of the old bookery, Milo's pause led him back there, curiosity buzzing like static through his whiskers. The shop was wedged between two buildings like a forgotten thought, its paint peeling, its sign faded to near invisibility. A brass keyhole sat beneath the rusted handle, and a sign dangled lopsidedly from a single chain. Closed, or is it? Milo squinted. That hadn't been there before. He darted beneath the heavy wooden door and emerged into a maze of towering bookshelves and shelves crammed with trinkets, scrolls, and things that glowed faintly. The air smelled of cinnamon, old paper, and something stranger, a scent he couldn't quite place. Something electric. Behind the counter stood a hunched, feather-covered owl in a monocle. He wore a velvet waistcoat with tiny silver buttons and appeared to be reading a book upside down. Without looking up, he muttered, "You're late." Milo hesitated. "Excuse me." "SHH. hissed the owl, flipping the book right side up. "You're Milo. You're here for the map." "Map." The owl finally looked up and blinked both eyes, once at a time. "The map, of course. You saw the statue, didn't you? The boy with the flute. You thought it was just decoration. Well, Milo began, but the owl had already turned, rummaging through a box labeled "Do not touch under any circumstance, except Thursdays." From it, he pulled a faded scroll and carefully unrolled it across a dusty table. "This," he said dramatically, "is the map of the beneath." Milo stared at the lines and swirls. "Beneath what?" The owl tapped the parchment. "Beneath Bellbridge." According to the map, beneath the city lay a secret labyrinth of ancient tunnels, chambers, and doorways guarded by riddles and other things. At the center of it all was a symbol, a circle within a star within a rose. "The Circle of Whispers," the owl explained. "It's said to be a sanctuary of lost magic. But it's been sealed for centuries. Only those with a pure heart and clever mind can open the path." Milo wasn't sure he was clever or pure enough, but the flutter in his chest said he had to try. The owl handed him the map and added a curious item, a small compass made of glass and gold, its needle spinning until Milo touched it, then it froze, pointing toward the castle. "It responds to intention," the owl explained. "Wherever you most need to go, it will lead. But beware, there are creatures in the dark who don't like being disturbed." Before Milo could ask more, the owl vanished in a puff of ink-colored feathers, leaving only the scent of lemon and parchment. Milo clutched the map and compass, heart pounding. He stepped out of the bookery and into the alley just as the bells of Bellbridge tolled noon. There was still time before tea. If the compass pointed toward the castle, then so be it. He would follow it. He hopped onto a passing tram, the kind powered by whirring gears and steam pipes, and nestled beside a basket of apples. The tram rattled through the city, over bridges, beneath arches, and through tunnels echoing with music and machinery. Along the way, Milo noticed something peculiar. People and animals were whispering. Shopkeepers paused to glance at the sky. Children pointed at shadows moving oddly. A woman dropped her shopping basket, startled by a gust of wind that seemed to blow against the wind. Something was shifting in Bellbridge. The tram came to a stop near the castle gardens. Milo hopped off, clutching his new treasures. As he made his way toward the gate, a strange mist curled around his paws. It wasn't like the morning fog. This mist glowed faintly blue. He followed the compass past flower beds and fountains until he reached a low hedge behind which stood Lena's burrow, elegantly carved into a crack in the castle wall and decorated with seashells and dried lavender. Lena appeared in the doorway, wearing a pink rosebud hat and the tiniest spectacles imaginable. "Milo, you're early. And you've brought a map." He held it out. "There's something beneath Bellbridge, Lena. Something big." She adjusted her spectacles and smiled. "Then you've come to the right mouse. Let's have tea and then we'll plan our descent into the unknown." The parlor inside Lena's burrow was the very picture of mouse elegance. Delicate doilies lined walnut shell tables. Acorn cup chandeliers flickered with warm firefly light. A miniature grandfather clock ticked softly beside the hearth, and the scent of steeping rosehip tea filled the air. Milo sat on a velvet thimble cushion, the map of the Beneath spread before him, the golden glass compass gleaming faintly in the afternoon light. Lena, ever the host, balanced a tiny china tray of honey cakes and raspberry biscuits on her tail as she poured the tea with graceful precision. "You realize," she said, setting down the teapot, "this map may be older than Bellbridge itself." Milo nodded. "And it pointed me here. There must be an entrance somewhere in the castle." Lena bit into a biscuit thoughtfully. "There are legends," she said between crumbs. "Old stories passed through the generations of mice who've lived in these walls. They say the castle was built atop something ancient tunnels, maybe even ruins." She rose, disappearing into a side room, and returned with a thick book bound in cracked bark and stitched spider silk. She flipped to a bookmarked page, revealing an illustration, a stone door, hidden in shadow, its arch etched with the same rose star circle symbol from the map. "They call it the Hollow Gate," she murmured. "It's said to be sealed by 3 locks: wisdom, kindness, and courage." Milo leaned forward, heart racing. "Do you know where it is?" Lena glanced toward the fireplace. "I think I know who knows." An hour later, Milo and Lena crept through a narrow gap in the wall behind the castle's royal kitchens. They darted past cooling pies, clattered over marble tiles, and tiptoed under a chandelier made of sugar glass. At last, they slipped into the undercellar, a part of the castle unused for centuries, where wine barrels had long since rotted and cobwebs cloaked everything like shrouds. Here lived the oldest resident of the castle, Master Bramble, a blind mole who had lived underground so long his fur was nearly translucent. He was said to be as wise as the stones and twice as stubborn. They found him nestled in a nest of moss beside a mossy stone, not a bed, but a slab with strange carvings. "I heard you coming," Bramble rasped before they could speak. One with a restless tail and one with curiosity burning like candlelight. Milo stepped forward, emboldened. "Sir, we seek the Hollow Gate." The mole tilted his snout. "Many seek it. Few return. The Beneath is not just tunnels. It's memory. It's magic. It's alive." He pressed a paw to the stone beside him. "But you have the map. And the compass. So perhaps it's time." He leaned closer, breath earthy. "The gate lies beneath the Hall of Echoes, hidden behind the third pillar, the one shaped like a harp. There, you'll find the first lock, wisdom." "But how do we open it?" Lena asked. Bramble smiled. "Wisdom is not held, little one. It is earned." By the time they reached the Hall of Echoes, the castle was whispering with twilight. Servants bustled preparing supper, but none saw the two mice scurry beneath their feet. The hall was massive, with tall marble columns and windows painted with stained glass images of ancient battles and crowned kings. Milo paused at the third pillar. Sure enough, it bore a carving of a harp near its base. He felt along the grooves and found a seam, then pushed gently. With a faint rumble, the floor beneath the pillar split and a circular staircase of worn stone spiraled downward into darkness. Lena lit a shard of glow moss, and together they descended. The air grew colder. The walls narrowed. At the bottom, they emerged into a circular chamber, the chamber of the first lock. On the far wall stood a door, etched with glowing symbols. A small lectern stood before it with a riddle carved in flowing script. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wind. What am I? Lena frowned. A ghost. Milo whispered, no, an echo. As the word left his lips, the symbols on the door shimmered, and a soft tone rang through the air. The lock of wisdom was broken. The door creaked open, revealing a winding corridor bathed in pale blue light. They walked for what felt like hours. The corridors changed stone to crystal, crystal to root and earth. Time felt strange here. At one point, they passed through a room where glowing feathers hung suspended in the air, slowly rotating. In another, walls pulsed like they were breathing. This place is alive, Lena said, voice hushed. Eventually, they reached a chamber with a pool of water as clear as air. In the center floated a single red petal. On the far side of the pool was another door, marked kindness. As they approached, a voice echoed through the chamber, soft and ancient. You may pass only if your heart is gentle. Prove your worth not with strength, but with sacrifice. Confused, they looked around until they heard a whimper. From the shadows emerged a tiny shivering creature, a bat with a torn wing, clearly too weak to fly. Its eyes were wide and terrified. Milo glanced at the door, then at the bat. Then, without hesitation, he knelt, tore the ribbon from around his neck, the one his sister had given him, and wrapped it around the bat's wing as a makeshift sling. There, he whispered. You're safe now. A warm light filled the room. The petal floated across the water to Milo's paw. When he touched it, the door of kindness opened. Lena placed a paw on his shoulder. You really are something, you know that. Milo smiled faintly, but inside, he felt a strange ache. That ribbon had meant everything. But somehow, it also felt right to let it go. As they moved into the next corridor, something shifted in the air. The warmth faded. The tunnel walls darkened. And ahead, they saw the faint flicker of torchlight and a figure standing still. Tall, cloaked, silent. Lena took a step back. What's that? Milo narrowed his eyes. Whatever it was, it stood between them and the third lock, courage. and the deepest secrets of the beneath. The torchlight flickered wildly, casting long, shifting shadows on the walls of the ancient tunnel. Milo took a cautious step forward, his paws silent on the cool stone floor. Lena was just behind him, her breath shallow, her glow moss light barely illuminating the figure ahead. The silhouette stood still tall, cloaked in dark gray folds that rustled without wind. Though it had no visible face, Milo could feel its gaze pressing against him like cold mist. "This must be the test of courage," Lena whispered, voice trembling. The door behind the figure glowed faintly. A symbol carved into the stone above it matched the one from the map, a flame wrapped in a spiral of thorns. "The third lock." Without warning, the figure spoke. "To pass, you must face that which you fear most." The voice wasn't loud. It wasn't harsh. It was everywhere, as if the tunnel itself had spoken, as if the air between their whiskers had found words. Milo's ears twitched. His heart pounded. The ground beneath them began to tremble. Suddenly, the tunnel walls peeled away like pages from a book, and they were no longer underground. Milo blinked and found himself standing at the edge of the Bellbridge clock tower, hundreds of feet above the city. The wind roared. The stone beneath his paws was narrow, and down below, the city blurred like a watercolor painting. He froze. Heights. He'd always told himself he didn't mind, but this was different. This was real fear, coiled in his chest like a tightened spring. Lena was gone. He looked around, but all that surrounded him was open air, dizzying space, and that endless fall. "I'm dreaming," he whispered, gripping the edge of the ledge. "No," the voice returned. "You are awakening." Milo shut his eyes. "I don't want to fall," he whispered. "I don't want to be alone." Then he heard it, a sound cutting through the wind. Lena's voice. "Milo. I'm here. Look left." He opened his eyes. Across the tower, on another ledge, Lena stood, paws outstretched. "You're not alone, Milo. You never were." He stared at the gap between them, wide, terrifying. A jump would be foolish. But a step, maybe. He looked down again and saw the stone start to shimmer. A bridge was forming. Not of stone or wood, but of light. Faint and flickering, but real. He stepped onto it. It held. One paw, then another. Breath by breath. He moved toward her. When he finally reached the other side, Lena grabbed him and pulled him into a tight hug. "I thought I lost you," she said. Milo shook. "So did I." The tower vanished. They were back in the tunnel. The cloaked figure was gone. The door of courage stood open. And beyond it, was silence. The passage that followed was unlike anything they had seen. The walls were carved from crystal, glowing with soft hues of lavender and deep blue. Flowers bloomed in darkness, pulsing with life. The air was warmer now, stiller, almost sacred. They entered a wide chamber, the final chamber. At its center was a pedestal, and upon it sat a small, pulsating orb. The heart of the beneath. Around the room, ancient carvings told the story. Long ago, Bellbridge had been built atop a living force of magic, a sleeping spirit of wisdom and wonder. The heart had once glowed brightly, guiding the city in times of peace. But over centuries, people had forgotten. The passages sealed themselves. The spirit slept. Until now. Milo stepped closer. The orb pulsed, reacting to his presence. He placed the map and compass before it. The room shimmered. And suddenly, the carvings came to life, moving images playing like light and shadow on the stone. They showed animals and people, living together in harmony. Then darkness, greed, division, the heart dimming. But now, a new scene formed, two tiny mice, side by side, standing in the chamber of the heart. A voice whispered in the room, no longer ominous but warm. "Thank you." The orb flared bright, then split into two. One half floated into Milo's paw, the other into Lena's. They felt it at once, a sense of calm, of clarity, of connection. Then the chamber began to tremble again, but this time, not in warning. In awakening. The beneath was no longer hidden. It had returned. Milo and Lena emerged from the tunnels hours later, just as dawn broke over Bellbridge. They stepped into the early morning light, blinking at the pale sky streaked with peach and gold. The city was still. But something had changed. People on balconies watched pigeons fly in graceful spirals. A child planted seeds in a pot with her grandmother. A man helped a stranger with her grocery basket. The city felt softer, more alive. They had done it. As they sat beneath the Elias statue, the same one Milo had slept under days ago, he smiled. "So," Lena said, unwrapping a piece of almond tart from her bag, "what next?" Milo stretched, tail flicking. "I think it's time." Bellbridge remembered the magic beneath its feet. Lena raised her tart like a toast. "To the beneath." "To adventure," Milo added. "And to breakfast," she grinned. They laughed, two tiny heroes beneath the great sky, with the heart of a forgotten world now pulsing gently in their paws. The city of Bellbridge had begun to change. It was subtle at first, an extra shimmer on the river at sunrise, a robin's song that carried a few notes longer than usual, a feeling that the wind knew your name. Magic had returned, not with thunder or fire, but like a memory recalled from a long-forgotten dream. Yet deep beneath the streets, something stirred. And Milo felt it. A week had passed since he and Lena awakened the heart of the beneath. they'd return to their lives or try to. Lena resumed her royal routine in the castle walls, and Milo, ever the wanderer, found new corners of the city to sleep under. But the map, now blank, pulsed faintly in his satchel. One night, as he slept tucked behind a bookstall near the Bellbridge library, Milo awoke to a sound soft, sorrowful humming, drifting up from beneath the cobblestones. The same voice from the heart chamber, calling him. He sat up. The compass long dormant had begun to spin again. Then it froze, pointing west. Not toward the castle, not toward any landmark he knew, but toward Whispergate, an abandoned train station closed decades ago after a strange accident that no one spoke of. By morning, Milo had made his way through tangled alleys and bramble-choked fences to the iron gate of Whispergate station. Vines crept over rusted railings. The entrance, once grand, was broken and bent. Inside, everything was covered in dust. Broken glass crunched under paw. Shadows clung to the corners. But the compass was steady. He ventured deeper, finding the station's forgotten tunnels. His paws moved with purpose now he knew he was being led. Eventually, he found a hatch behind a collapsed bench. It was covered in symbols faded, but familiar, a rose, a flame, and a new one. An eye, closed. Milo placed his paw against it. The hatch opened. Below the station was a new layer of the beneath untouched even by legend. The walls here were older, carved not by tools but by something else. They shimmered with quartz and vines that pulsed faintly. Moss lined the floor in intricate patterns like a map written in green ink. He followed a path toward a wide chamber, the Vault of Whispers. In its center stood a mirror. But not a normal mirror. This one rippled like water. And when Milo looked into it, he didn't see himself. He saw his sister. The one who had given him the ribbon, who had vanished many seasons ago while searching for answers about the old magic. She stood in a chamber not unlike his, same symbols, same mirror. She looked older. Worn. But she was alive. Milo, she whispered. He jumped. You can see me. Yes, but only for a moment. This mirror is a twin gate. I'm trapped on the other side of the beneath. I followed a path that split in two. I chose the wrong door. Milo's heart pounded. How do I reach you? The door is locked by 3 spirits, she said. Not like the ones you faced. These are ancient. Wild. You must earn their favor or defeat their trials. Then, as suddenly as she had appeared, the mirror clouded. Milo was left alone with the sound of his heartbeat. He returned to Lena with haste. She's alive, he said breathlessly. My sister. She's trapped beyond a sealed path. Lena's eyes widened. Then we have no time to waste. They gathered supplies, berries, rope, glow moss, tiny tools, and returned to Whispergate together. The hatch opened at Milo's touch, and soon they stood before the mirror. Lena stared in awe. Twingate. I thought these were legend. Then the floor rumbled. The mirror flickered. And from the walls, 3 symbols glowed: a leaf, a claw, and a star. The spirits, Milo said. We need to find them. Each symbol pulsed once, then disappeared, replaced by 3 paths, each carved with strange runes. They chose the leaf path first. The tunnel led into a forest underground. Roots spiraled like pillars, and glowing mushrooms lit the way. The air smelled of dew and something older. At the heart of the forest sat a creature woven from bark and breeze, the verdant warden, guardian of wild things. It spoke in rustling leaves. To pass, you must restore what was broken. Before them, a tree stood cracked and hollow, its sap leaking silver tears. Milo and Lena worked together, mending the bark with spider silk and humming the songs Lena remembered from castle lore. Slowly, the tree healed, and from its branches bloomed glowing blossoms. The warden bowed its head. You have honored the forgotten. The first key is yours. A green shard floated to Milo's paw, warm and humming. 1 spirit down. 2 to go. They turned back toward the other tunnels, knowing the next trial would not ask for kindness, but strength. The second path was darker. Where the leaf-marked tunnel had been green and alive, this one was jagged, narrow, and sharp-edged. Cracks lined the walls like scars. The air smelled of iron and old smoke. And somewhere far below, something growled. Milo and Lena exchanged a glance. Whatever this trial is, Lena said quietly, adjusting the strap of her satchel, it won't be solved with spider silk and lullabies. Milo nodded. He could feel it too, tension in the stone, heat rising with every step they took. His whiskers twitched with unease. The compass had gone silent, and even the shard from the verdant warden had dimmed slightly, like it feared what was ahead. They descended deeper, the tunnel widening into a cavern that pulsed with red-orange light. A lake of molten crystal bubbled in the center, casting reflections that danced like fire spirits across the ceiling. The heat pressed down on them like a heavy blanket. And then it emerged. From behind a jagged column of obsidian, a beast stepped into the light, a massive feline shape made of living stone, with fur like burning coal and eyes like twin embers. It moved with slow grace, each step shaking the earth. The Emberfang, second guardian of the beneath. Its voice rumbled like thunder trapped in a canyon. You who seek the second key, prove your strength. Milo stepped forward instinctively, but the creature raised a claw the size of a wheel. Not the strength of your paws. The strength of your choice. Flames erupted from the crystal lake, and a platform rose from its depths. On it were 3 items. A golden sword, etched with runes of ancient power. A glowing gemstone, humming with raw magical energy. A faded cloth doll, stitched by hand, simple, fragile, and unmistakably his sister's. Lena gasped. Is that? Milo didn't speak. He knew it was. 1 grant's power, the Emberfang growled. 1 grant's control. 1 grants nothing, except memory. Milo's paws trembled. The sword called to him. So did the gemstone. Either could help him face the remaining trials. But the doll, it brought back her laugh, the scent of pine needles, the way she had braided her tail with clover stems when they were kids. He stepped onto the platform and reached for the doll. The sword disintegrated. The gem shattered into dust. But the doll, warmed in his paw. A low, pleased rumble echoed from the Emberfang. You have chosen not what serves you, but what anchors you. Strength is not in domination. It is in devotion. The great cat stepped aside, revealing a crystal pedestal. Upon it floated the second shard, this one a deep, molten red. Milo took it gently, holding the doll close to his chest. As they turned to leave, the Emberfang's voice followed them. The final path is the most treacherous. Many who walk it, do not return. They emerged from the trial chamber breathless and drenched in sweat. Lena passed Milo a thimble of water, and he drank in silence, still staring at the doll in his paw. She's close, he murmured. I can feel it. Lena nodded. 1 more shard. Together, they turned to the third path. It was marked by a star not carved, but hovering in the air, spinning slowly, glowing with a soft blue light. The air around the entrance was cold, unnaturally so. Breath came in visible puffs. Frost crept along the walls like veins of silver. As they entered, silence fell. But it wasn't empty silence. It was listening. The tunnel widened into a chamber that felt like a night sky turned inside out. The walls were black glass, reflecting stars that didn't exist. In the center hovered a single orb of starlight. And beneath it stood a figure cloaked in shimmering shadows, neither large nor small, neither human nor beast. The Star Watcher. The final key is not given. It must be created, from within. The figure raised an arm. Suddenly, Milo was alone. No chamber. No Lena. Just blackness. Then a flash. He stood in Bellbridge again, but it was different. Empty. Cold. As if magic had never returned. The people hurried by with hunched shoulders and downcast eyes. The statue of Elias had crumbled. The castle was dark. He walked the streets, calling Lena's name. No answer. He turned a corner and found himself staring into the mirror from the vault. His reflection stepped forward. But it wasn't him. It was a version of Milo, with the sword. With the gem. Drenched in power. Cold eyes. Silent heart. You could have had everything, the reflection sneered. Power. Magic. Victory. Instead, you chose love. Memory. Weakness. Milo clenched his fists. You're not me. The reflection smiled. No. Then prove it. They fought not with weapons, but with will. For every doubt Milo had, the reflection struck harder. For every fear, every regret, it clawed deeper. But Milo remembered something, his sister's laughter. Lena's hand in his. The verdant warden's blessing. The Emberfang's nod. He stood tall. I choose to feel, he said. Even when it hurts. The reflection screamed and shattered like glass. The darkness faded. Milo returned to the chamber, gasping, the third shard glowing in his paw, a pale silver star. Lena was waiting, tear-streaked. You vanished for hours. He handed her the shard. It felt like years. Together, they placed the 3 shards green, red, silver into the frame around a twin gate mirror. It flared with white light. And then, the gate opened. A passage now lay before them, carved with vines, flame, and stars pulsing with life. Hold on, sis, Milo whispered. I'm coming. The mirror rippled like moonlit water. For one breathless moment, Milo and Lena stood in silence before it, the gateway pulsing with the energy of 3 united shards. The green leaf of restoration, the molten red of devotion, and the silver star of truth had awakened the ancient magic. The twin gate was no longer a relic. It was a door. A promise. A chance to bring Milo's sister home. He turned to Lena, voice steady but thick with emotion. No matter what's on the other side, we don't turn back. Lena tightened the straps on her satchel. We face it together. They stepped into the light. The sensation was unlike anything Milo had ever known. It wasn't like walking through a tunnel. It was falling sideways through memory, sound, and emotion. Voices whispered all around, snatches of old songs, childhood giggles, lullabies long forgotten. And then, solid ground. Milo blinked. They were in a forest, but not one from Bellbridge. The trees were pale and tall, their leaves glowing with an inner silver light. The sky above shimmered with constellations neither mouse had ever seen. A river ran upside down through the air, its surface reflecting the stars as it flowed through nothingness. This isn't just the other side of the beneath, Lena whispered. This is another world. Before them stood a stone arch, and carved into it in glowing script were the words. The forgotten half. Milo's heart pounded. She's here. I know it. They followed a winding path through the glowing woods, past floating boulders wrapped in ivy and statues of creatures they didn't recognize: antlered wolves, winged serpents, and a giant snail curled around a crystal spire. The magic here was wild, untamed, but not cruel. Not yet. After a long hike, they reached a ruined watchtower. Ivy coiled up its cracked sides, and a soft blue fire flickered in a brazier near the entrance. Inside, perched upon a ledge, sat a bat, small and scruffy, with a ribbon tied awkwardly around its wing. "Wait," Milo breathed. "That's the bat from the kindness trial." The bat's eyes lit up. "Milo. Lena. You made it." He fluttered down awkwardly. "Name's Bristle. Been stuck here since that trial. The gate wouldn't let me leave. But I've heard whispers. The girl you seek. She's alive. But she's not the same." Milo's throat tightened. "Where is she?" "She's deep in the caverns of reflection," Bristle said. "But there's a problem. Something else is down there with her. Something old. It calls itself the Warden of Echoes." Lena frowned. "That name sounds familiar." Bristle nodded. "It's a piece of the beneath that refused to sleep. When the heart dimmed, this thing stayed awake, feeding on lost memories, broken dreams, and guilt." Milo felt a chill despite the glowing forest air. "Then we face it," he said. "We get her back." Bristle fluttered his wings. "You'll need this." He passed them a satchel lined with silver bark powder used to reveal illusions and a tiny crystal orb. "She's marked this orb. If she's conscious, she can guide you. Just follow the glow." The orb pulsed faintly, a heartbeat in Milo's palm. They journeyed into the caverns. The entrance was hidden behind a waterfall that flowed in reverse, its water climbing skyward into the cliffs. Behind it, the stone parted, revealing a descending spiral staircase that seemed to breathe. The walls here were mirrors. Not polished, but alive, shifting with memories. Milo saw flashes of his past as they walked, the day his sister taught him how to climb ivy. The moment he lost sight of her in the crowd. The day he gave up hope. Lena reached out and squeezed his paw. They came to a massive chamber. A stone bridge crossed a void filled with swirling mist. In the center of the mist floated a single platform, and on it, a figure sat curled, unmoving. The orb in Milo's paw flared. "It's her," he breathed. He stepped onto the bridge, and that's when the mist moved. The Warden of Echoes rose from the depths like a shadow given form, towering, robed in fog and regret. Its face was a shifting mask of all Milo's worst memories, his sister calling for help, his face turning away. "You left her," it hissed. "You forgot her." Milo stepped forward, trembling. "I never forgot. I searched. Every day. Every night." "You chose freedom," the warden snarled. "She chose you." Lena stood beside him. "And now he's choosing her again." The warden surged, tendrils of mist reaching out, but Milo raised the silver bark powder and cast it wide. The fog hissed, recoiling. "Truth," he whispered. "Truth reveals all." The mirrors on the walls lit up not with pain, but with love. Every memory Milo cherished, the hug she gave him before she left, the games they played, her laughter echoing in an alley. The warden screamed and began to shrink. With a roar, it collapsed into mist and vanished into the floor. The bridge solidified. Milo ran. His sister lay still. Pale. Quiet. He knelt beside her and gently placed the doll, the one from the Emberfang trial, in her hands. Her eyes fluttered open. "Milo." And he broke. "I found you," he whispered. "I found you." She sat up slowly, tears rolling down her fur. "I knew you would." Lena knelt beside them. "Let's take you home." As the three of them emerged from the caverns, the glowing forest seemed to brighten. The stars above reformed into constellations Milo hadn't seen before, twin mice, back to back, surrounded by flame, leaves, and starlight. The forgotten half had been healed. But deep within the forest, something else watched. The Warden of Echoes may have been defeated, but the memory below was only beginning to awaken. The reunion of Milo and his sister, Sylvie, felt like the first dawn after a long, starless night. For the first time in many seasons, Milo's heart felt whole again, but the beneath was far from quiet. As they retraced their steps through the glowing forest, Sylvie's eyes darted nervously to every shifting shadow. "Something is wrong," she whispered. "The beneath remembers more than we do." Lena nodded grimly. "The memory below, the part that holds every forgotten secret, every hidden regret. It's awakening. And it's angry." Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their paws. A deep rumble echoed through the trees, causing the glowing leaves to shudder like frightened fireflies. From the mist, figures began to emerge. Not living creatures, but Echo's ghostly apparitions, flickering with half-formed shapes and flickering light. They were memories made manifest, faces from forgotten dreams, moments of joy and pain trapped in time. One stepped forward, a tall figure cloaked in ragged robes, with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce right through Milo. "I am the keeper of lost memories," the figure intoned, voice like the rustling of dry leaves. "You have disturbed the balance. You have awakened what should have remained asleep." Sylvie stepped beside Milo. We freed the beneath to heal the city. To restore life. The keeper's eyes narrowed. To heal, yes. But at what cost? Every memory has its shadow. Every joy, a sorrow. The memory below will reclaim what you have taken. Milo's sister shivered. What do you want from us? The keeper raised a translucent hand, and suddenly the ground beneath them split open, revealing a spiraling descent into darkness. To save Bellbridge, it said, you must enter the heart of the memory below. Face the forgotten truths. Or watch as all you love is consumed by shadow. Without hesitation, Milo stepped forward. We face it? Together. The descent was a journey through the very essence of forgotten time. They passed through halls lined with mirrors reflecting moments Milo had long buried, a childhood promise broken, a friend left behind, a secret whispered in the dark. Each memory was a test not of strength or courage, but of acceptance. Lena faced a vision of her first failure, tears flowing but steady. Sylvie confronted the moment she had turned away from her family to follow a dangerous path. Milo's trial was the hardest. He found himself standing in a misty field, the scene of his sister's disappearance. In the distance, shadowy figures blocked his way, echoes of fear, doubt, and regret. They whispered, "You weren't there. You let her go. You are not enough." His heart pounded, but Milo lifted his head. "No," he said. "I was always searching. I was never gone." With each word, the shadows faltered, then dissolved into light. At the center of the field lay a small, glowing seed. The keeper appeared again. "Plant this in the heart of Bellbridge. Only then can the memory below be at peace." Emerging from the depths, the three mice returned to the city as dawn broke again. Milo held the seed tightly. Bellbridge was waking not just from sleep, but from forgetting. The journey was far from over. But the first step toward healing had been taken. Dawn spilled golden light across Bellbridge, casting long shadows on the cobbled streets. Milo, Sylvie, and Lena stood atop the highest tower of the castle, the glowing seed cradled gently in Milo's paws. Below them, the city stirred, people waking, birds singing, the first market stalls opening. "This seed," Milo said, voice steady despite the weight of what lay ahead, "it's the key to the memory below's peace." Sylvie nodded, eyes bright with hope. "But where do we plant it?" Lena pointed to the ancient Bellbridge Square, where the old fountain stood dry for decades. The fountain was once the city's heart, fed by the beneath's magic. If we can restore it, maybe the memory below will rest. They hurried through the streets, weaving between bustling vendors and curious onlookers. Whispers of magic returned, rippled through the crowd, a hopeful murmur that spread like wildfire. At the square, Milo stepped forward. The fountain was cracked and silent, stones cold to the touch. He knelt and placed the seed at its center. Light pulsed softly, then surged, filling the basin with shimmering water that sparkled like liquid starlight. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet. From the shimmering water rose a brilliant figure, a radiant spirit of light, guardian of Bellbridge's soul. "I am Aurelia, keeper of the city's heart," the spirit said. "You have awakened the past and chosen to heal. For that, I bless you." But peace did not come without a price. From the shadows, dark tendrils of forgotten fears and regrets reached toward the light. The memory below's unrest fought to reclaim what was lost. Milo and his friends braced as the spirit Aurelia summoned a shield of pure light. Together, they stood as the city's hope, facing shadow and doubt with courage, kindness, and wisdom. As the morning sun rose fully, the shadows retreated, dissolving like mist. The fountain's waters danced with renewed life, flowing freely once more. Bellbridge exhaled. Milo looked to Sylvie and Lena, feeling a deep warmth in his chest. "The beneath is alive again," he smiled. "And so are we." With the fountain flowing and Bellbridge bathed in a newfound light, Milo, Sylvie, and Lena felt the city's magic stirring more vividly than ever before. But as the city awoke, so too did its ancient protectors, the guardians of the beneath, beings of legend and power long thought lost to time. That evening, as twilight deepened, the trio found themselves drawn to the edge of the silverwood forest, where the trees shimmered with ethereal glow. From the shadows emerged figures cloaked in shifting mist, majestic creatures, a towering stag with antlers like woven silver, a mighty fox whose fur flickered like fire, and a soaring hawk with wings painted by the night sky. The stag stepped forward, eyes wise and kind. "We are the guardians, bound to the heart of Bellbridge since its founding. Your courage and love have rekindled the city's spirit, but dark forces still seek to consume it." Suddenly, a chill wind swept through the forest, carrying whispers of an ancient threat, a forgotten evil known as the Void Shade, a creeping darkness that feeds on fear and despair. It had sensed the awakening and sought to extinguish the beneath's light once more. The fox's eyes glinted fiercely. "To protect Bellbridge, you must unlock the power within yourselves, the essence of the beneath made manifest." Lena stepped forward, determination burning in her gaze. "Tell us how." The hawk spread its vast wings, and a cascade of shimmering feathers floated down. "Each of you carries a shard of the heart. When united, these shards will awaken your true forms as bearer guardians, defenders of the balance between light and shadow." Milo felt the shards pulse warmly in their satchels, and as they joined hands, a radiant energy surged through them. Their forms shimmered and shifted, taking on new shapes imbued with power. Milo's sleek fur sparkled like starlight, Sylvie's eyes glowed with emerald fire, and Lena's paws crackled with vibrant energy. Together, they stood as Bellbridge's new champions. But the Void Shade's shadow was already creeping closer, and the true test of their guardianship was only just beginning. Night had fallen over Bellbridge, cloaking the city in a blanket of stars and shadows. Yet, beneath this quiet veil, The city thrummed with an urgent pulse, the unmistakable heartbeat of magic rekindled, of forces awakening. Milo, Sylvie, and Lena, now transformed as bearer guardians, stood on the precipice of their greatest challenge. The air around them crackled with raw energy as the shards of the heart glowed fiercely, pulsing in harmony with the city's lifeblood. The Silverwood Forest, once serene and ethereal, now seemed charged with expectancy, a battlefield waiting to be claimed. The Guardians knew that the Void Shade, the creeping darkness that fed on fear and despair, was advancing swiftly. It sought to snuff out the light of the beneath and drag Bellbridge back into a timeless abyss of forgotten sorrow. The gathering storm. From the edge of the forest, a sinister wind howled, carrying with it whispers of despair. Shadows shifted unnaturally, coalescing into twisting tendrils of darkness that slithered across the ground like living smoke. The Void Shade was no longer a distant threat, it had arrived. Milo felt his fur bristle as the temperature dropped suddenly. "It's here," he said, voice steady but filled with urgency. "We can't let it consume Bellbridge." Sylvie's emerald eyes burned with determination. "We have the power of the beneath. Together, we can protect the city." Lena, her paws shimmering with electric energy, nodded. "Then we fight. For Bellbridge. For everyone." As if in answer, the Guardians heard a low rumble, the earth trembling beneath their feet as the first wave of the Void Shade surged forward. The first clash. The darkness poured into the forest like a living tide, engulfing trees, and twisting the once luminous glades into shadowed nightmares. The tendrils lashed out, seeking to snare the Guardians and spread despair. Milo focused, channeling the starlight that sparkled within his fur. Raising his paws, he summoned beams of pure light that sliced through the shadows, illuminating the forest with radiant brilliance. The tendrils recoiled, shrieking as they dissolved under the cleansing glow. Sylvie stepped forward, her emerald eyes glowing fiercely. She summoned a swirling vortex of verdant energy, roots and vines bursting from the earth to entangle the creeping darkness. The forest fought alongside her, its ancient magic awakened and alive. Lena's form crackled with vibrant energy. She unleashed bolts of crackling lightning, striking the Void Shade's tendrils with precision and ferocity. The air hummed with the power of her strikes, illuminating the battlefield like a storm in the night. Together, they pushed back the first wave of shadows, but the Void Shade was relentless. The heart of darkness. As the battle raged, the Void Shade coalesced into a massive form, a towering figure cloaked in swirling black mist, its eyes glowing with malevolent red fire. It raised a claw, and the ground cracked, releasing bursts of shadowy energy that lashed out indiscriminately. Milo braced himself as the energy surged toward them. With a fierce roar, he leapt forward, his paws glowing with celestial light, intercepting the attack. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the forest, knocking them back but not breaking their resolve. Sylvie and Lena regrouped quickly, weaving their magic into a protective shield around Milo. "We can't face it alone," Sylvie shouted. "We have to combine our powers." Lena nodded. "On my mark." Unity of the Guardians. The three bearer guardians linked paws, the shards of the heart resonating with a brilliant light that surged outward, illuminating the forest in a radiant halo. Their combined energy formed a pulsating sphere of pure magic, a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. The void shade howled in rage, its form distorting and warping as it attempted to absorb the light. But the Guardian's bond was stronger than the shadow's hunger. With a unified shout, Milo, Sylvie, and Lena released the energy in a powerful blast, striking the void shade at its core. The darkness writhed and screamed, fragments of shadow breaking away like shattered glass. The forest seemed to breathe again, the glow returning to the leaves, the night sky sparkling with renewed brilliance. The aftermath. As dawn broke over Bellbridge, the remnants of the void shade faded like mist under the morning sun. The city was saved, for now. Milo, Sylvie, and Lena stood side by side, exhaustion and relief mingling in their expressions. "We did it," Milo whispered, eyes scanning the peaceful horizon. Sylvie smiled softly. "But this victory is just the beginning. The beneath has awakened, and with it, new challenges will come." Lena nodded thoughtfully. "We must remain vigilant. Bellbridge depends on us." They looked toward the rising sun, knowing their journey was far from over. A new dawn. Unknown to them, far beneath the city, in the deepest shadows of the beneath, a faint pulse stirred the echo of an even older power awakening. The true heart of Bellbridge was stirring. And the Guardian's greatest challenge awaited. The days following the battle against the Void Shade were unlike any the city of Bellbridge had ever known. The streets buzzed not only with the usual hum of life but also with the shimmering glow of magic restored. Flowers bloomed in impossible colors, rivers sang gentle lullabies, and the night sky danced with stars brighter than memory. Milo, Sylvie, and Lena now fully realized as bearer guardians stood together atop the ancient Bellbridge tower, their gazes fixed on the horizon. The shards of the heart still glimmered softly, pulsating with the city's renewed life force. Yet beneath this beauty, an ancient mystery awaited its revelation. The awakening of the true heart. Beneath the city, deeper than the roots of the silverwood forest and farther than the caverns of memory, a chamber pulsed with living light. Here lay the true heart of Bellbridge, a crystalline core, older than the city itself, infused with the essence of every soul that had ever called this place home. For centuries, it had slumbered, waiting for the right hands to awaken it fully. The trials, the battles, the awakening of the beneath all had been preparation for this moment. As the guardians approached the chamber, the air shimmered with anticipation. Milo stepped forward, placing the shards carefully within carved niches surrounding the crystal. The chamber responded instantly. Rays of light spiraled upward, weaving a tapestry of colors and sound that filled the space with awe-inspiring grandeur. Sylvie's eyes reflected the light as she whispered, "This is the true source of Bellbridge's magic, and its soul." Lena reached out, touching the crystal surface, feeling a surge of energy coursing through her very being. "It's alive," she breathed. "It's us." The last test. Suddenly, the light dimmed, and a figure materialized within the chamber, a silhouette of shimmering stardust, ancient and wise. "I am Elinder," the eternal keeper of Bellbridge's legacy, the figure announced. You have proven worthy by rekindling the heart and defeating the darkness. Yet, one final trial remains. The chamber shifted, projecting memories, hopes, and fears around the Guardians. They saw Bellbridge's past, its founders, its struggles, and sacrifices. They saw the city's future paths diverging into light and shadow. Elinder's voice echoed, "To truly protect the city, you must bind your spirits to the heart itself. To become its eternal guardians, sacrificing your mortal forms to live as its light." Milo, Sylvie, and Lena exchanged glances, understanding the gravity. Becoming one with the heart meant leaving behind their physical lives, but it also meant ensuring Bellbridge's magic would never fade. After a moment of silence, Milo stepped forward. "For Bellbridge, for everyone we love, we accept." Transcendence. As they placed their paws on the heart, their forms began to shimmer and dissolve into radiant streams of light. Their voices harmonized in a song of hope and courage, weaving through the chamber and rising to the skies above Bellbridge. The crystal pulsed with renewed vigor, sending waves of magic rippling through the city. The flowers bloomed brighter, the rivers sparkled clearer, and the night sky blazed with constellations that told the story of the Guardians' heroes who became legends. A city reborn. In the years that followed, Bellbridge flourished like never before. The memory of Milo, Sylvie, and Lena lived on in tales whispered by children, in the blossoming of every flower, and in the quiet, protective glow that surrounded the city every night. The Beneath remained alive, a living bond between past, present, and future, forever tended by the eternal light of the Guardians. Epilogue: The New Dawn. One evening, a young mouse with fur the color of river stones walked beneath the statue of Elias, a faint blue glow shimmering in his eyes and a small ribbon tied around his neck. He paused, looking up at the sky where new constellations twinkled, and smiled. For the legacy of Bellbridge was not just history. It was a promise. A new beginning. Title: The Beneath of Bellbridge, The Awakening of the Guardians. Description: In the enchanting city of Bellbridge, where ancient magic sleeps beneath cobblestone streets and whispering forests, a young mouse named Milo embarks on an extraordinary journey to awaken the forgotten power of the Beneath. Alongside his sister Sylvie and steadfast friend Lena, Milo confronts trials of wisdom, kindness, and courage to restore the heart of Bellbridge and protect their home from the encroaching darkness of the Void Shade. As the bearer guardians rise, they face a final battle that will test their strength, unity, and sacrifice. This is a tale of adventure, friendship, and the enduring light that connects past, present, and future, a legacy that promises a new dawn for Bellbridge.